So it's that time of the day when we give you an update on how far many of the stories we've been following for you throughout the course of the day have advanced. Here's your lunchtime update. All right, our reporters on the ground. We've got Heidi Giokos, who's been tracking developments in a story around what we saw with National Treasury actually exempting Eskom from the PFMA on some of its financial years. Heidi, you've been able to get reaction on the ground. What are people saying about this announcement?
Yes, I think many are taken aback and quite shocked at this latest development. We do know that Finance Minister eNCA has exempted Eskom for the next 3 years, Masego, to report on its irregular and wasteful expenditure. Many are asking why this was even allowed in the first place. Why would the Finance Minister and National Treasury allow Eskom not to report on this, given the state of the state-owned entity and given the state of the country's rolling blackouts? Surely South Africans should know where their money is being spent, or wastefully spent, that is. But the Finance Minister indicating that the reason for this is to make sure that the power utility remains in good credit standing. And it's basically just portraying an image of not wastefully and irregular spending money, which is of great concern given the fact that we do know there is billions that's irregularly spent at Eskom. Of course, the sentiment on the ground is trying to understand whether or not this is legal and whether or not there is a hidden agenda in all of this, why the Finance Minister would actually agree to this. But we do know that he will be briefing portfolio committees tomorrow and trying to explain this exemption. But we got a chance to speak to Alta, who has, of course, said that none of this actually makes sense. Let's listen to that.
When they did so in Transnet wasn't in the news and wasn't in the dire situation that Eskom is right now. So that's not an excuse. I think government should be going the other way and not granting more of these types of exemptions, because this is now precedent setting. What happens when the municipalities now come to Treasury and say, we would also like the same exemptions, please? This really just now puts so much smoke around the irregularities and the wasteful expenditure. We have to have that information. All oversight entities, including the Auditor General, have to be able to report on that. This is really, it's like lowering the exam marks and saying, well, we'll give you a 20% pass in maths if you can't pass it at 50%. This is the problem with this country in so many respects. You just lower the bar. It's totally unacceptable.
All right, let's take you to Nqobile Madlala now, who is covering the storms that happened in eNCA, leaving one person dead, Nqobile, and a few others injured. What have people been telling you about exactly what happened in eNCA?
Well, Masego, we heard from the son of the one that passed away, and it's very difficult to have heard what he was telling us. He says that his father had called him and said to him, you must sit down and have lunch with him. And he asked him to share lunch. He says it never really happened ever. And for the first time, he asked him to share this lunch, and he said he must get somebody and go home. And when he went home, that's when the incident happened. You could see just he was holding back the tears. And even after we had interviewed him, he said what he saw was very difficult to take back. He says, a lot of what he saw when he was home, it looked like a very big storm, but he didn't know that it was going to, by the time it ends, that his dad's life would have ended. So very tragic and very traumatic for the family. In fact, where we are, it's the village where the family is, and we're on our way to the family's household. But if you speak to the business owners, a lot of them are still just counting their losses. A man who owns a warehouse couldn't even speak at some points with us, and he just said he doesn't know how he's going to cover all these expenses. But the officials have been on the ground, and they've said that they are going to avail some assistance however way. We do know that they are looking into insurance as well coming in, but a lot of families have been affected, and they are yet to see the 4 people that are currently in hospital. So it's been a very difficult time for the people in eNCA who have lost their loved ones and who are in hospital, and others who are still trying to figure out what will happen to the 10 homes that have been affected. But let's listen in to some of those who were affected.
Bekade kusetshenzwa njengensuku zonke and then kwashintshiwe suddenly ubaba wacela ubhuti uKyle ukuthi ehle ewasha amathuluzi mayehle washa amathuluzi kwaba nomoya strong yena wawubona ngoba ubebuka ngala uqhamuka ngakhona bona besethwe udonga wangena kwicontainer kunemvula then mayethu uyaphuma isana imvula udonga selwile mayethu uyafika ufica omunye wabo uyalenga lapha phezulu ubambeke ngekhanda phicizwa ama-blocks mayethu uya-check-a on the other side uze umunye uyamemeza kambona umemeza ngaphansi kwetini then bezama ukuremove itini mabethi bayiremove itini if ebone nobaba then ethuka ukuthi awubaba emmemeze thola ukuthi ubaba kasekho ezama ukufonela mina ifoni yami be off kube nzima ukuthi afonele uma njengomuntu unesifo sesifuba futhi unesifo sokuwa so kwabanzima ukuthi eshesheshe ukuthi kwenzakalani then ngabona nami ukuthi no methi phuthuma uzelana ngicela imoto drive ngizela mangifika engivimba amaphoyisa ngigijime as if konke ngitshelayo ukuthi something is wrong mangithi ngiyafika ubaba kasekho emhlabeni and then laba babili ke balimele.
All right, that was your eNCA lunchtime update from all angles with reporters Heidi Giokos and Nqobile Madlala. Thank you, team.